I was going to say, the mileage has nothing to do with anything. I mean, it depends. It's not one size fits all.
That's good. Yeah. I guess one thing I'm feeling like I'm wondering what it is I don't seem to have tremendous amounts of energy, and I'm wondering if is it something I mean, like you, I don't try and stuff in huge amounts of calories, but I wonder if I'm eating enough. I don't know.
I don't think it has to do with food because I mean I think the human body, it's amazing because even if you don't have a lot of food in your stomach, it somehow it manages to produce the energy necessary for the workout. So it's not that. Could be something else. I don't know.
Yeah. You take B12, right?
Right now, I'm taking. I think it's I'm taking it.
Okay.
I'm taking something else. I think there's B12 too. I'm taking the iron.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I'm taking iron, and there's iron B12. But I'm taking this just because I'm training. Because if I'm not training, I don't take any supplement. I don't want to take anything. So I'm taking D now because
yeah.
And
do you find that the iron gives you energy?
I don't know if it gives me energy. I'm just taking it because it's I want to do everything right. Since I run a lot, I need iron. I need B12. So I got this iron B12 combined.
Okay. Interesting.
I don't even want to take a risk of finding out now because I'm in the middle of this workout. And then after the race, I'm going to stop taking all that crap.
Okay.
And actually, after this race, I thought about doing longer fasts because now I'm doing 24 hours, trying to do maybe 48, a little longer, and definitely in the summer I want to do longer.
It'd be interesting if you had time. You could kind of keep a journal of your experiences. If you're going to start extending the fasting, see at what point, if any, you start to feel like you don't have energy. That'd be interesting.
But it's amazing. I have to say it's amazing. At least in my personal experience, it's amazing because it's kind of counterintuitive when you think I have to eat, especially because I'm going to work. It's not like I'm staying home. I'm going to work, and plus I'm going to run. I'm going to do lots of miles, and you think you have to eat a lot, but in fact the same or better level of energy if you fast. More mental, sharpness, focus.
Yeah,
it just works better when I fast, and I have the energy before and after. So it's just amazing.
That's incredible. All right, so tell me, Carlo, about this organization where you're going to be having this talk. You're going to have a talk in March and a talk in April, right?
Yes, I'm not sure if I'm going to do both talks. That depends. I don't know. I don't know yet. Definitely, I'm going to talk in April. Now, the organization is the Long Island Philosophical Society. It was founded in the early 70s, I think.
Huh.
And it's nice. It's a prestigious one. It's very good. And I have talked in different occasions like this, conferences, where there's generally a theme. Let's say they call for papers on a particular philosophical topic.
Yeah.
Let's say Hume or continental philosophy or phenomenology, whatever it is, where I read papers about whatever the topic was. This is the first time that I actually submitted a paper on animal ethics and veganism. So it's exciting. And now, this particular conference, what's more exciting is that the main theme is not animal ethics. It's not even ethics, because it's an open open day,
Okay.
with regard to the topic. So
Cool.
there are going to be philosophers of all
Stripes.
yeah, and they're going to talk about different things. So it's exciting. I'm going to talk about animal ethics, and let's see what's going to happen.
That's neat, man. Is this something that one has to buy a ticket for in advance?
I don't think that you have to buy a ticket. My understanding is that it's free.
Wow.
It should be free.
Okay.
Just a conference.
Cool. And where is it located in? It's on Long Island?
It's no, it's actually in Queens at St. John's University.
Okay.
St. John's University. And
I'm gonna try and come up for the April talk.
Yeah, you can come.
There's a guy up near you, High Carb Skate Punk. He's on Long Island. See if I can get him to come along too, maybe.
Oh, he lives in Long Island. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Tell him to come.
That sounds great. Yeah, and I'm interested in all kinds of philosophy as well, so it'd be interesting to see what else pops up there.
Yeah, I mean, generally in these conferences, they present highly technical papers. In fact,
Okay.
I feel bad because my paper is not going to be highly technical for the first time for this topic. Not very technical at all. Generally, so I don't know if you can follow it, because they're very technical. They generally talk about very narrow things within a certain philosopher.
Okay.
Within certain ideas. Sometimes they're boring because they have to be boring. That's the way academia is. It can't be interesting. You have to boring papers. That's what I always hated about academia. That if it's not boring and pedantic, not really, boring, but pedantic. It has to be purposely pedantic. If it's not, it doesn't qualify it as academic.
That is really sad, Carlo, and it's not student driven. It's like the primary objective should be imparting knowledge, and part of that process should be engaging the student. So hats off to professors who really make it interesting for the student.
Yeah, well, the idea, is that you do that when you teach at university, but these conferences are designed for highly trained, academics in that field of philosophy. So you're going to hear a lot of boring things. The format, by the way, is that I think they give you 30 minutes, something like that, 30 minutes and then 15, 20 minutes for questions.
Okay, yeah.
And I have no idea how many speakers are going to be in either date, so I don't know.
All right.
But it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear, because you think you deal with philosophers and you have educated people, and you'll be surprised how many philosophers actually are not educated at all in animal ethics and animals in general. Because the problem is in philosophy, like in many other fields, is that you specialize. That's the thing that is really sad about academia nowadays. That you go to grad school, right? You go to college, and you study. And in fact, that's when you become fascinated and interested in philosophy when you go to college, because you do a broad survey of philosophy and the history of philosophy.
Yeah.
But then when you go to grad school, then you start narrowing that down, and it's one specific small tiny topic that you have to pick and stick to it and write a dissertation about it. So you're gonna be like this. You're not gonna look at the world of philosophy. You're just gonna study for 7 years, 8 years while you're doing your PhD, that particular thing, and you do your research on that particular thing. So you're gonna know a lot on one thing.
You know, that's not only, I think, a problem in philosophy. I think it's systemic with all academics, and also traditional medicine has reached this point where it's so diversified, so specialized, nobody can look at the broad picture. You know, and you know, the people that intrigue me are what you might call a Renaissance people. Mm-hmm. You know, who can have a very broad look and be educated about many things and see interrelationships between superficially apparent different schools of thought or even different special, you know, even say what is the connection between medicine and ethics? Yeah. What is the connection between mechanical engineering and ethics? You know, what is the connection between nutrition and I don't know, commerce? You know, it's nobody sees these things all connected, and I love that you're introducing, you know, animal ethics into this philosophical gathering, because even though I agree with you, it's like ethics is the most powerful reasoning behind being vegan. In the popular consciousness, it's not on the radar like health or even the environment. Yeah. It's interesting.
And it's interesting because, yes, like you said, it's not in a radar because, well, I mean, it's not surprise because ethics is an academic discipline, and many people, you know, the lay people don't understand ethics. They think they do, but they don't. You know, you really have to study for years ethics to understand ethics, how to evaluate ethical theories, the criteria, so it's really for trained people in that field. And what's interesting is it shouldn't be just an academic discipline. That's what tells you that ethics should be taught more in schools. We don't learn ethics. We don't know ethics. The only time and way that we deal with ethics, unless we're philosophers, is when our parents teach us ethics, and the way it's taught is the worst way possible, because when they teach you ethics, your parents, they tell you, do this, don't do that. Why should I not do that? Because if you do it, you're going to be punished, or you're going to suffer, or you're going to go to jail. So that's the way ethics pretty much is taught in society, at least in Western society. Don't do certain things because you're going to be arrested. You run a risk of being arrested or killed or punished. That's what ethics boils down to.
And you would say
I would say ethics is a matter of like sports, right? Like sports, you you train your body to be excellent. I'm not being original by saying these things, by the way, because Aristotle said this 2,500 years ago, okay?
Well,
ethics is a matter of practice, Aristotle said. Character. You have to form your character. You have to become an ethical person by practicing, by doing ethical things, by acquiring virtues. That's my view of ethics.
And
okay?
wouldn't you say also, Carlo, that it's more effective if you educate a child about the principles behind the ethics that you're trying to convey? I mean, perhaps for reasons of expediency, parents default to this rapid command: do this and you will suffer, do this and you will be rewarded. Right. You know, it's a simple way to and maybe it's a justifiable approach in some cases, but I would guess that your position is that you'll be much more effective with the child if you can appeal to the child's intrinsic logical nature by explaining these things at a higher level. You know, at least in a manner that the child can understand, but perhaps providing a more in-depth background as to why ethical behavior is best for the child and for the child's role in society. Yeah,
that's right. It's just not easy. It's just not easy.
How do you do it with your kids? How do you convey ethical principles to your kids? Because I know you're atheist, and a lot of folks can rely on religious teachings to convey some kind of ethical foundation. How do you do it since you're an atheist? How do you, I guess by example, of course, by example to your kids.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. By example, by practical example, by having discussions. Because generally when we talk to our kids, we say, don't push other kids, and that's it, right? And it's over. Don't push the kid down when you get to the park.
Down the stairs.
The end, and that's the end. Why? It hurts. Okay, that's it. But what's more helpful is to have a discussion. The discussion with my kids, I have discussions. I really have discussion for 5-10 minutes, and I go through the details of why. Right? Well, think about the other kid. You know, he's like you, and you give all the explanation, and you sit down and you talk, which is something that is not done very often nowadays, because as you pointed out, parents are busy. The life is the way it is, society is the way it is. But that's the important thing: examples and discussions.
Would you say that it's common for parents to not recognize the intelligence of the child and the child's ability to absorb these kind of principles?
Yeah, that too. I think many parents might underestimate their children's capability. They are intelligent. They're intelligent. I'll give you an example, by the way, that I was thinking about. I wanted to when I was telling you about examples, my son asked me a good question, very good question. Said to me, "What if you find an animal that is dead? Would that be okay to eat it?" That's a great question, and you know what? It's a typical objection that philosophers who support eating animals, right, make, because they say, well, you're trying to support veganism for reason of ethics, because you don't want animals to suffer. What if they don't suffer? What if they're dead? Would that be okay? And that was a great question, very interesting question. So I had a talk with my son, and I said, well, you see, this is the story. I don't eat, and it's not that I don't eat animals only because they suffer, that's a great part of it. But you see, it's more complicated than that.
Yeah.
It's not just that kind of vegan. You know, to me, well, I didn't use this analogy, but I'm going to use the analogy with you. I used another analogy. So bear with me. I read an article a while ago where there was this lesbian answering questions, okay? Questions that heterosexual people have about lesbians, you know. But why is this? Why is that? So one of the questions, the frequently asked questions to lesbian, apparently, I read in this article, is who is the man in the relationship, and how do you decide who's the man in the relationship? And I read the answer of this. I don't remember the name of this person, this lesbian who wrote the answer, and I thought it was brilliant. She said, look, you heterosexual people are so obsessed with male-female dichotomy, right?
Yeah.
You see the world through this framework, right? It's like you have heterosexual glasses.
Yes, yes.
Glasses. And that's the way I explain it to my son without the lesbian example. I said, you see, people see the world through their worldview. If you eat a certain thing, the example that I used is languages. Because since I'm Italian, a native Italian, right? When I meet people and they ask me where I'm from, and I say I'm Italian, they say, oh, it's like Spanish. First thing that they come out of their mouth, it's like Spanish. And I say, no, it's not like Spanish. And oh yeah, how do you say hi in Italian? Because in Spanish they say I don't know what they say.
Hola.
Hola or come estás?
Yeah.
Don't you say come sta in Italian? You see, it's the same. And I answer to these people. I answer. You see, you once again, you see the world from your framework, and you got to understand about languages. It doesn't work that way that you take a language, you translate it literally, and you have that language. So in Spanish, you might say hola. In English, you say hi. Or in Spanish, you say como estás. But in Italian, maybe you don't say that. Maybe you don't say, or maybe you don't say anything at all.
Buono sera, yeah?
No, well, you don't say that. But you see the point that you can't look at languages from your mental framework.
Yeah.
You know, being a native English speaker, you have a certain framework, and you construct the sentences in a certain way, and you look at the world in a certain way. In Italian, you even when I try to teach Italian to my wife, although she's very good, she speaks well, but sometimes she tries to translate literally certain expressions in English, and she says, "What's the translation of this?" And I say, "There's no translation." "Oh, come on!" And she gets frustrated, and I say, "Listen, there's no translation. We just don't think that way. We don't think that way."
This is a very interesting point, Carlo.
Right.
A very interesting point.
So now, this is the example that the analogy that I use with my son. So I said, you see, so I'm a vegan because I got to a point where I don't see animals as food. So whether they are dead, whether they suffer or not, to me they're not food. So there's no reason for me to eat animals. Or just like, for example, another question. The question is, what if they cloned meat? Or they made meat in a lab. Would you eat that? No. But why not? The animal is not suffering. There's no suffering involved. It's just synthetic meat. But why would I want to eat synthetic meat? That's the, you see, that's the point. So that was a very interesting question that my son asked. And that's how I teach him ethics. By really...
Well, I love
and explaining to them the details.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's kind of like you just have a totally different context from which to see the whole issue. I mean, you could at a physical level, you could say, well, the primary motivation behind me being vegan are the ethical reasons of it, and yet there are also these environmental and health issues associated with eating these things, which are also negative. But I like what you're saying, alluding to this idea that with language and culture, there's a totally kind of specific orientation towards the world.
Yeah,
and you
it's
know,
a framework.
That's one of the good reasons to visit a foreign country, to learn another language, because it opens your mind up to seeing things in a slightly different light. Although you'll never be able to completely assume that culture yourself, at least it can perhaps help you grasp. It'll give you a chance to communicate with someone from that culture. I think this is critical right now with this Christian Islamic misunderstanding, this inability for these two giant cultures to communicate. I think it's extremely important that we make an attempt to understand each other. We're really all human beings. You know, for an atheist, these arguments are totally absurd. They're idiotic. You know, that people are arguing over religious beliefs, but nevertheless, it's our reality, and we really, I think as human beings, we're really well served by trying to stand in the shoes of our fellow human beings who come from other cultures, other perspectives, like you said, lesbianism, you know, homosexuality, a foreign country, for an ethicist to stand in the shoes of an engineer, for you know, a teacher to stand in the shoes of a businessman. You know, we need to kind of interconnect and have appreciation for other parts of society that, you know, walk in worlds that we don't usually ourselves. Anyway, that's a long rant there.
Oh yes, you're absolutely right. And yeah, now I was thinking about religion because you talked about religion, and I wish the religions disappeared from the world, but they're not going away. They're not going away. They will.
There's a line I like from a teacher who's had a lot of influence on me, and it's God has many names and forms, and God is one. Now, if you're an atheist, it doesn't matter. But if you're a religious believer of any kind, if you can accept that there is God, and yet these various cultures simply have different names for the same principle, that's a huge uniting factor. And I think that's what needs to be emphasized.
It's funny because you call me an atheist. Yes, probably I am. It's more complicated than that, because it's not even atheist. I don't even like that label.
Okay.
But I talk about religion a lot in my lectures, especially because I told you, philosophy of religion is one of my areas of expertise.
Well, there's a huge overlap between philosophy and religion. Yeah.
Yeah, and when I last semester I was talking about because I got some questions from the religious people about veganism and Islam, and I actually did research, and just based on the Quran, you can actually support veganism. I mean, I showed them how in the Quran, because these were Islamic students, in the Quran, first of all, Muhammad apparently was vegetarian.
Huh.
And in the Quran, what's interesting, this is in the Quran, Paul. The Quran says that, actually in the Hadith.
Okay, right? Yes, yeah.
It says that that animals are not just instruments, but they form communities. I'm just paraphrasing, okay? But
Yeah.
they form communities just like human beings. That's big if you think about it. The Quran is still, I mean, Muhammad, okay, their prophet is telling them that animals form communities.
They're
They're
social.
not just instruments. They're not just automata. They are beings that form communities just like human beings.
Yeah.
So you have to respect them. And there are many quotes in the Quran or in the Hadith that tell you that you have to respect animals. And one that is kind to animals is also kind to people. So there's a great textual, rich textual evidence for supporting veganism. The Bible, I have to say, it's a different story because the Bible is really cruel. It's funny because actually, when you think of extremism, you think of Islam as an extreme religion, and you don't hear very often of Christians, bombing, etc. But in fact, the Bible is cruel. The only thing that supports veganism is the very beginning of the Bible, where before the fall, when human beings, when there's paradise, apparently Adam and Eve, the perfect food, God says, is fruit and plants. That's it.
Yep.
And then after the fall, you read of sacrifices and all that. But it's interesting. But it's also interesting that before the fall, in a state of nature, in a state of perfection, plants and fruit, that's the food.
And there's one other example in the Old Testament you might be interested in, Carlo, is Daniel and Daniel's diet. So one of the unique things about Daniel is he ate fruits and vegetables. And if you'll remember, they were going to cast him into the lion's den, and the lions didn't eat him. So he and his immediate group did not eat meat, and it's even stated in the book that talks about him that his health was very good, and the soldiers that were guarding them were trying to figure out why their health was so good. But you're right, for the most part, there's very limited evidence. Now, interesting, the Essene community, which was in existence around the time of Christ, slightly prior to Christ, was a kind of quasi-monastic community, and it could be that they were vegetarian or vegan. So very interesting. Also, a book you would very much like, I highly recommend. I just finished it. It's called Zealot by I think it's Reza Aslan. Excellent book. It talks about the transition of Jesus as a historical figure into a metaphysical concept that Christianity has turned Christ. It talks about the transition from Jesus to Christ in terms of the broader consciousness. You could say that the Christ that Christians worship is not at all what Jesus was when he was preaching in the temples.
Right.
So it's a fascinating book. Highly recommend.
I believe it. In fact, I always say when I am in these kinds of discussions about religion, I always say if God really exists, he's gonna go like this. I mean, oh my God, God is gonna say, oh my God, you're just doing everything wrong, just everything wrong. You eating crap, you killing one another, and then you go to church. Who cares about the church? Don't go to church. Don't kill other people.
Have you ever seen the movie, Carlo, Oh God?
No.
You got to see it. It's really funny. It's got John Denver. You remember musician John Denver? He has this acting role. He didn't do a lot of acting, but he plays this guy in modern day America. And God appears to him in the form of George Burns. I don't know if you remember George Burns, but he was this old guy. He's been around forever, and he plays the role of God. And they address a lot of these issues. It's very funny, very funny.
Huh. Yeah, because it's funny. You know, the stuff that we do, it's just crazy.
It's silly. But it's also dangerous and sad. The way these belief systems can actually lead to murder.
Yeah. Yes. It's really sad. I wanted to tell you in my paper that I present, I give all these examples of. We're jumping from one thing to another.
Yes, okay.
I'm giving these examples of the way the industries use animal products, which is very suspicious. I mean, if you, I told you this in an interview. If you put yourself in the shoes of an individual who comes from a different civilization, maybe from a different world, and you come here down to Earth, and you ask about our practices, I think you will be surprised to see the how we use animals. So I was thinking about all the examples that I put in my paper. For example, matches, right?
Matches, like for starting a fire?
Yeah, matches.
Okay.
They use animal products. For example, they use collagen for the tip.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, oh yeah. So be careful when you. I mean, and this is by the way, the reason why I'm so frustrated, because people like us, it's so frustrating because you want to avoid animal products and animal exploitation, and you can't, because look, you buy a pair of shoes, you don't buy leather, but guess what? If they use glue, the glue is made from animals.
Yeah.
The wall paint, you have painters in your house. How do they make the paint? Animal blood.
Wow.
Scotch tape. How do they make the glue for the Scotch tape? Collagen from animals.
Wow.
I mean, anything that you can name. There's animal everywhere. Animal everywhere. Furniture, paper, whatever, ink for your pen. It's just they're everywhere. They're everywhere. So you'll be, I think, surprised to see, if you were from another civilization, how much we use animals.
Yeah.
Do you really need to use animals? I mean, matches, glue.
I think it's the nature of business to be efficient and try to, extract as many components out of a product as possible.
To maximize.
So I would have to think that if we can shift the consciousness such that people are not eating these animals, then they'll no longer be a source for these other products.
Probably so. Yes.
I would hope.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's also a good point that we have to be realistic and recognize that it is a part of our world, and it's easy to get fanatic to the point where you're immobilized. It's easy to just hang up and walk away and do nothing. And perhaps it helps to know, it's just everywhere, and you just do what you can. You keep fighting the fight, and in time, perhaps the whole thing will shift.
Yeah, it's frustrating for me because you can't take a step without realizing that there's some animal that suffered.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like we're surrounded by suffering. Yeah.
We are the way society is. Well, another thing to jump to another subject once again. Another thing that I'm doing lately is I'm always as I told you I have a monastic life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
I wake up early. I try to avoid a lot of things. I try to to go against this is the thing that I always wanted to do since I was younger to resist to capitalism, to avoid the commodities offered by capitalism. So, for example, right now, as we speak, I don't have a cell phone.
You don't have a what?
A cell phone.
Okay.
I don't have a cell. I never had a cell phone. I haven't had a cell phone in probably 10 years.
Good for you, Carlo. Good for you, man.
Yeah, I don't have a cell phone. No cable. I don't have home phone. I don't have a landline. I don't have a landline.
I love it. I love it, man.
Yeah. And,
you're probably going to have the last laugh when those of us that have cell phones end up getting brain tumors at about age 60, you know?
Maybe. They call me a urban Amish. Because I'm not a, and I have a laptop, you see. I have Skype, but I'm not into electronics.
Now, let me ask you this: is your wife ever frustrated that she's not able to get you by cell phone?
Not really, because if I'm not home, I'm at the office.
Oh, okay, yeah.
She can call me at the office.
Can you imagine how much money you saved? That's incredible.
Oh yeah. But and also the it goes further than that because I don't for example I don't use I try to limit the detergents, soap, for example, dish soap, not cooking as much. I don't look at it that way, but once again I save a lot of money because I don't even cook that much. And finally, I finally convinced my wife and the whole family to not buy oil at all, any kind of oil. So my kids were having some oil. My wife, I haven't had oil in years. And finally I convinced it. I said, let's try. And even if you have pasta, for example, yeah. I'll show you how to eat it without oil. And finally, we're not buying oil anymore.
Wow.
There's not zero oil in my house. We don't have olive oil, vegetable oil, no kind of oil, nothing.
That's amazing.
And she says to me, "Oh, it's great. I don't miss it." And that's the funny thing. You don't miss it when you eliminate it from your diet. And it's because to me, the way I live my life is I think that we should, the right way to live your life is simplicity. Going towards simplicity. The fewer items you have in your life, the better. But even in your mind, the fewer thoughts you have, the more serene and happy life you live. You have to eliminate all the problems. When you have a car and a property, I don't own my apartment, and I don't want to own anything. I don't want to buy anything. But I don't have that headache.
There's a great analogy from the Hindu tradition. It's probably in other traditions as well, but the line is less luggage, more enjoyable travel.
Right, right.
You know, and that's true for life. You know, you simplify. You reminded me of Gandhi. You know, what an incredibly powerful message, just because he simplified his life down to the very. I mean, the guy was making his own clothes and eating. You know, another big faster, proponent of fasting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just we don't need all this crap. And I still have a lot of crap. I'm trying to reach a point where I can basically be a monk. You know, hopefully, maybe 5 or 10 years I'll have very little, maybe a few books. I still have books, you know.
Yeah. But it's funny, Paul. It's funny, Paul, because when you do this, you know, you embrace this kind of lifestyle where, for example, I'm doing intermittent fasting. I eliminate oil, I eliminate stuff, you know, clothing, unnecessary things. And you then when you stop for a second, you pause and think, you say, man, really society really fucks you up. It's just amazing how it didn't occur to me before that I was just a lobotomized robot.
A cog in the wheel.
Just buying stuff, buying this, buying that, you know, acquiring goods, for what? No reason. It's the same idea that Romero had in the 70s when he made those movies about zombies.
Yeah.
They go to the supermarket. That's how it is. We're a bunch of zombies just going to supermarkets, to these malls, and buying stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to buy this item and that item. Why?
Yeah.
Man, it's incredible.
Listen, Carlo, I love these discussions. I want to keep going. I gotta cook a late breakfast for my mom, though.
That's fine.
But yeah, it's, you know, hopefully it's changing. I mean, hopefully it's changing, and I hope that we can break out of this. It's unfortunate. It's kind of it's become. I think the materialism in American culture has become the preeminent focus for the entire culture, and it's kind of sad because it's really not. You know, materialism in itself. There's nothing at the end of that that's concretely satisfying. You know, I think we need to get back to just improving the quality of life for as many members of our society as possible, which would include, you know, education in terms of, you know, the dietary principles that we know, but also this simplification. It's funny that the whole media is geared towards praising consumption, and that GDP and production and you know, the buying of houses. These are all these standards which are kind of unconsciously accepted as necessary goals. I mean, why are these goals? These don't have to be our goals. We don't. There's no brass ring.
They set the goals. They set the goals, and you and they feed it to you. They shove it down your throat, and you at one point you just can't go against it. You have to accept it. So then you find yourself as an adult with these concepts in your mind. I have to have a house. I have to have a dog. I have to buy a cell phone. Well, you're crazy. You need a cell phone. You need this. You need that. You need all these things that you don't need. You don't need. If you really think about it, you don't need all these things. You can live a simple life, but it's hard. It's hard. And it's all connected. It's all connected with the diet. It's all connected with veganism.
Well, right? It's interesting. It's interesting you say it's hard. It's hard initially for someone who lives with those things. But for you, wouldn't you say that your life is very simple? It's it makes your life easier, doesn't it, in the long run? Once you get out of the habit of using these things, it gives you tremendous freedom, doesn't it? So... But I could talk to you all day. You're an inspiration, Carlo. I always love chatting.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. But listen, enjoy President's Day.
Yeah, I'm going to stay home all day, basically. Well, actually, I'm going to the gym later because it's. I checked now. The weather is 10 degrees. Went up a couple of degrees. 10 degrees. And then after 4 or 5 p.m., it's going to go down again. So
hang in there, my friend. Hang in there. You got another month or so, and it'll be warming up for you.
Yeah. How long are you staying there in Florida?
We'll be here till middle March, and then we're going to go back up to Virginia.
Oh, good. Wow.
So
enjoy Florida.
I highly recommend it. I think these folks that come down for a few months in the winter are very wise.
Do you find a difference in taste between the fruit that you find at home and the fruit that you eat there in Florida? Is it better?
That's a good question.
Quality wise.
You know, if I looked around and got plugged into some of the local sources, I would imagine that's the case. Florida does have a winter. So it's a little bit different than say summertime. But you know, there's Publix's. There's a big Publix chain down here. So you probably get a lot of similar fruit that we would see up in say Virginia. There's more papayas. There's better papayas down here. I do, you know, right nearby you see these container ships coming in, which I guess they come from the Caribbean. So they're bringing, you know, tropical produce. I don't see, you know, in the regular grocery store, I don't see a giant selection of tropical fruits. I mean, not like, I don't see like jackfruit or durian or anything like that. But
I guess I'm lucky in New York because you find everything.
Wow.
Everything. Durian, mangosteen, the egg fruit that I told you, if you find it, you know, I found the black sapote.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've never tried it.
Yeah, it's an interesting fruit.
You know what would be cool is if I could do with you, perhaps we could do a video and we go with you on a journey into some of these places that you shop at, and,
yeah.
we could educate folks about that. That'd be fun if you got like a little camera or something, you know.
Yeah, I have to organize that, or maybe with the cell phone, my wife's cell phone.
That'd be yeah.
Because when we go to Chinatown here in New York is amazing. I mean, you find all these things.
Oh yeah.
They even have, you know, if you don't want to buy the whole durian, they slice it for you. They put it in a container and they sell it to you. They clean the jackfruit for you. They put it in a container. It's amazing.
Hey, if I come up there in April, maybe if you have time, we could go eat some fruit somewhere after your lunch. You know?
Yeah. Let me know if you come. Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll be cheering you on in the audience.
All right.
All right, Carlo. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Yes. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Yep. Okay. Bye.